Hey babe, Tracer here, and I'd like to start by welcoming you to the second episode of Between Me and the Ink. As you've seen in the title, today I want to share my book summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear. When I first saw this book, I was in the Nairobi CBD and the title got me really curious. I wondered what tiny habits could have results remarkable enough to fill a book. I made a mental note to Google the book later and completely forgot about it. Obviously. A few weeks later, I was at the supermarket when I saw the book again. I stopped by to read the book blurb, which is just the words on the back cover that tell you what the book is about without giving away the plot. And I was sold on it. I checked the price and figured I couldn't afford it at the time, but I knew I was eventually gonna buy it. But I forgot again. It's not until like 2 months later that I actually committed to it and bought the damn book, which is the only way I can read a part of the book blurb for you now. It says, a revolutionary system to get 1% better every day. People think when you want to change your life, you need to think big. But world-renowned habits expert James Clear has discovered another way. He knows that real change comes from the compound effect of hundreds of small decisions. Doing 2 push-ups a day, waking 5 minutes earlier, or reading just 1 more page. He calls them atomic habits. The blurb goes on for 1 more paragraph that you have to read for yourself. Sorry. But in the end, it says, these small changes will have a transformative effect on your career, your relationships, your life. And, I bought the book. Now, I would like to preface this book summary acknowledging that not everyone enjoys reading, and to some extent, I think that's okay. If you're one of those people that just can't sit down with a book or even listen to an audiobook, I do hope you have other ways to gain new insights on how to make the most out of life. Because experience has taught me that road dogging this life just ain't it. There's easier ways to do this. There are so many things that we weren't taught in school or at home or even on the streets, and yet learning them makes such a huge difference. Generally, if you're not learning new ways to make your life better or easier, you're constantly operating at a disadvantage. If you love reading but life keeps getting in the way, that's okay too. At some point, you will figure out a system to make reading a part of your everyday life, and I hope you get there soon. This summary is for the people who don't enjoy reading, but are open to the insights that us readers seem to have a lot of access to, and for those who read but haven't opened Atomic Habits yet, as well as those who've read the book and are just curious about my interpretation and application of the shared wisdoms. The first important lesson in this book is that tiny changes do not produce a visible difference immediately. So when you are making these changes, you need to have a why that is beyond the tangible evidence. Like when I started doing morning pages, it would have been nice to experience eloquence and mental clarity within the first few days, but that didn't happen. It would have been easy to get discouraged and revert to my sporadic journaling days where I'd even skip months at a time. But I now understand that the tiny changes are a build up to something bigger. I have now been doing my morning pages religiously for 6 months, and the difference is profound. My mental clarity is at its peak, as is my eloquence with the stream of consciousness type of writing. I started out struggling to fill 3 A5 pages, and now I write up to 5B5 pages effortlessly. I haven't turned up blank in months. The second lesson is that the most effective way to change your behavior is by changing your identity. It is easy to say you want to live a healthy life and still do all of the unhealthy things known to mankind and beyond. Everyone wants to be healthy, even when the definition of healthy is subjective at best. So, in order to actually live a healthy life, you have to become a healthy person. And who, in this case, is a healthy person? You have to decide who that person is and then determine the kind of behavior that that person needs to have. So, if you think a healthy person works out at least 3 times a week, and you are a healthy person, you will also have to work out 3 times a week. And every time you stick to this habit, you convince yourself that you are that healthy person, and eventually it becomes a non-negotiable. You no longer have to convince yourself to work out because working out is just something that you do. Currently, I'm trying to use this lesson on my writing. I have like 5 or more pending projects that I have thoroughly procrastinated on. But since I am a writer, I have to write at least 3,000 words a day. I will let you know how well it works out for me in a couple of months, but given the momentum that I am already building, I am very optimistic. Another lesson that I'd like to bundle with this one is that habits change your beliefs about yourself. Like, I have had so many doubts about my writing over the years because I was just not writing consistently. But now that I am once again certain that I can write. There are things that we imagine we should be able to do effortlessly, but we're not really built like that. You have to commit and create systems that make it possible for you to be everything that you think you are. So if you think you can run, you have to put on those running shoes more often in order to give yourself a real chance. The third lesson is that habits are meant to solve problems with as little effort as possible. So your habit needs to be obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. For example, if the problem is that you are unstimulated, or like a normal person would say, bored, the most obvious, most attractive, easiest, and most satisfying solution that will need little to no effort for most people is to get on your phone and start scrolling. This instantly gives you the stimulation and the dopamine that you're craving. And if we're being honest, we all have and continue to fall into that pit of doom scrolling because it meets a very constant need for stimulation and dopamine with no effort. But we do not necessarily have a bottomless pit of time to spend like that. Personally, I have learned to look for a quick task on my to-do list, engage my partner, or just pick up a book and read a few pages whenever I'm craving stimulation. Another way that I fill the empty spaces in my day that could easily culminate in endless scrolling is by actually working out. This way I get gains and endorphins as bonuses. The fourth lesson is about habit stacking. You already have habits that you perform every day, like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. In the book, Clear notes that if you bundle a new habit with a habit that you already have, it becomes easier for you to keep at it. And this is actually a thing because when I was still struggling with working out, I remember stacking it with taking a shower. I thought, since I'm going to shower anyway, I might as well do a quick workout before I step into the shower. I even convinced myself that the only thing better than a hot shower is a hot shower after a sweaty workout. And it stuck. Nowadays, whenever I plan to take a shower, whether early in the morning or later in the day, I am very likely to also plan a workout for before the shower, unless it's a resting day. Lesson number 5 is that motivation is overrated. You are more likely to stick to a habit if you have built the right support system for it. For example, if you want to drink more water every day, the best way to do it is to keep a bottle of water by your side all day. This simple environmental cue will ensure that you remember to stay hydrated, more than you would if you had to get up and get the water every time you thought about it. This also works with books for me. I have a huge stack of books that I need to read, and the only reason I am reading so many books now is because they are right there, ready to be picked up whenever I have some free time. Designing your environment to support the habit that you want to form helps to minimize the friction that would cause you to relapse. This lesson is also important for kicking bad habits. Reducing your exposure to the habit will make it so that you do not need to fight the temptation all the time. Our brains are not built for remembering things that are out of sight. Lesson 6 is a little bit touchy because it's about temptation bundling. According to Claire, you should bundle a want with a need so that you can still get your wants but at a positive cost. Like if you want to spend some time on Facebook but you also need to respond to an important work email, the formula here is that you pull out your phone, send the email, and then get on Facebook for a limited amount of time. This helps to bridge the time inconsistency by creating a gratification for both your present and your future selves. And the science makes sense, but I find that it is very easy for me to bundle needs and wants that do not match in magnitude. And then I end up stuck in a bad dopamine loop where my needs are not being met. Like if I only respond to one work email and spend the rest of my day on social media, because it can be a rabbit hole, my future self will be very unhappy with my present self. Lesson 7 is to find your people. Once you decide on who you want to become, it makes sense that you find the people that align with that identity. And before you break out into hives at the thought of socializing, which I did, finding a community does not have to be physical. You can find your communities by watching or listening to content and engaging in the comments. I think the important thing is for you to see that there are people who have done what you're trying to do and allowing the shared identity to reinforce your personal identity. For example, I love DIYs, but I don't always have the time to build stuff. The thing that reinforces my identity as a DIY enthusiast is that I am always engaging with DIY content online, so I remain aware of my capabilities and interests in that regard. Lesson number 8 is that every difficult habit will need a motivation ritual for it to stick. If let's say you need to clean the house and that's a difficult thing for you to do, you can decide to treat yourself every time that you clean the house. Then your brain will associate cleaning the house with whatever treat you choose. I imagine getting a money payday after cleaning the house for those who enjoy these services can be quite the treat. And it makes sense that the thought of getting pampered would suffice as encouragement for you to clean your house. If you have to clean your house, that is. Lesson number 9 is that you should start really small. Habits need to have a level of ease to minimize the resistance that you're likely to feel. Like if you're trying to get into reading every day before bed, don't go straight to doing 30 pages every day. Allow yourself to read less than 10 pages. That way, when you are very exhausted and can only read one page, you do not give up on the habit and promise to try again tomorrow. Instead, you open the book with the goal of finishing that one page. The book might engulf you and you end up getting to the 30 pages, but that is not the goal that you want to start out with when you're tired. It thus helps, even after the habit has stuck, for you to have both an upper and a lower limit. I have read a whole book in a day, I have read a book in a whole month, and in both instances, I was just happy to have finished the book. Clear also states that the duration of performing a habit is not as important as the frequency. So you can do something for 2 minutes or for 30, it doesn't matter. What really matters when it comes to forming habits is that you do it every day. Lesson 10 is that when it comes to habits, you have to standardize it before you can optimize it. That means that you have to do the thing however you can do it before committing to making improvements. If, for example, you sign up for a class and now you have hours and hours of reading to do, you can start by reading for 10 minutes every day. You cannot scale up the magnitude of your reading and maintain it unless you first form the habit. So read every day for 10 minutes until reading no longer feels like a chore. Then you will find yourself willingly extending the duration of the reading. So basically, do not rush to complicate your habit before you are ready. Lesson 11 is that habits become more satisfying when they come with a feeling of success. Unfortunately, most habits have a long-term impact, so you will not experience the obvious successes immediately. To deal with this, and I agree, James Clear says that you should track your habits so that you can see the progress that you're making. I think completing your habit is quite a success, but you may not feel as satisfied unless you're tracking it. I use a calendar and simply tick the dates on which I complete the habit that I'm tracking. For example, the last quarter of 2023, I know that I read on 78 out of the 90 days. That allows me to be satisfied that I am doing really well with my reading habit. In the last 30 days of the same year, however, my workout habit took a beat because I was only able to work out 10 out of the intended 15 times. When your habit becomes the mission, you do not dwell much on the outcome because as much as they will eventually come, you need to experience satisfaction now in order to keep going. Tracking your habits not only reinforces the self-trust that you are building, but also allows you to experience satisfaction when you tick all the days of the week or month after performing the habit. The 12th lesson is that habits are easier if they align with your natural abilities. And this is not meant to discourage you or anything. Someone that has an athletic build will have an easier time forming sports-related habits than someone who doesn't. But this does not mean that you should not try. It just means that you should expect more friction. For example, if you are heavy, the first few times working out will be very hard. Your body will be very sore and your joints may even hurt a bit. But eventually you will get into shape and things will be a little less difficult. If you're dyslexic and you want to form a reading habit, the first few books will be undeniably difficult. The key takeaway here is that you should set realistic expectations of yourself if your habit is not aligned with your natural abilities. Expecting that there will be pain and that the progress will be slow for some time will keep you from getting discouraged too early into it. Lesson 13 is that you will not stay motivated all the time, and that's okay. That's why it's better to have a schedule and stick to it, because as earlier mentioned, habits are more about how many times you do the thing. So if you decide that you will be going for a run every morning, it does not really matter whether or not you're motivated to do it. Just get up and get it done, because in the end, your outcome will be the same, whether or not you are motivated during the habit. Lesson 14 is that you have to audit your habits and make the necessary adjustments every so often. The whole point of starting a habit is so that you become a master of some sort. That means you must be willing to make improvements as needed. Evaluating, for example, how effective your workout plan is will keep you on track with your fitness goals by ensuring that you do not stick to the wrong plan for too long. Evaluating your reading habit will help you to understand the kinds of books you should be reading or the time slots during which you read the most. Essentially, monitoring and evaluation are important to habit formation because they ensure that you are sticking with habits that are improving your life and leading you towards your goals as effectively as possible. The last lesson is my favorite so far, and it is that you need systems in order to attain your goal. Your goals are about where you are heading, while your systems tell you how to get there. For example, last year my goal was to buy a car. The system that I used was to save everything that I earned. I of course still had to pay my share of the bills and stuff like that, but I wasn't spending any money outside of a very strict budget. This year I have a very different financial goal, but I already know how I'm going to get there. Basically, once you decide on a goal, create a system that will guide you to that goal. If you need to finish writing a book, your system should be about writing a certain minimum word count every day. If it's to finish reading a book, then how many pages are you going to read? When are you going to read, and how are you going to make sure you read? Don't just set goals and expect yourself to achieve them. Draw the entire map with as much detail as possible so that you don't have to spend more time in the future trying to figure things out. As we end this session, I must say Atomic Habits is one of those books that you may need to read several times, and it is likely that each time you'll find a new insight that resonates. I have found that when I read nonfiction, it is best for me to take notes and use highlighters like I'm studying for a test. This helps to commit the lessons to memory and even to come up with actionable steps that will translate the book's benefit into my life. Or you can just listen to my podcast and get a distilled version of the lessons you want to apply to your life. You're welcome, babe. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you found one or two lessons that can help with whatever habits you're trying to build. And until next time, may your path be kind and paved with lots of ease. Bye.